Hey everybody out there on YouTube, once again it is the Reverend and I am back with a short little video that I'm going to make and release out before I do my normal weekly thing with the other middle-aged guys. Basically this video is pretty much just a few addendums and corrections to some of the videos that we made last week. A lot of them concerning about the copyright protection and legal action as far as when we reported that Nintendo went out of their way to take down some fan-made games, and also the Internet Archive upload of the scans of Nintendo Power. In general, there are a few things that I wanted to go ahead and actually clarify and put out there that I don't think I myself didn't exactly state correctly. Maybe it's because of well, I'll tell you right now, it was definitely a lack of research on my part, but also because I wasn't able to get around to it when all of us were talking at once on the subject. As we know, earlier this month, there were a few fan-made games that were released out, and they were taken down. One of them was another Metroid 2 remake that was put together. It was a fan-made game where it was a remake of Metroid 2 Return to Samus in the spirit of Metroid Zero Mission, where Nintendo went out of their way and they remade Metroid 1, the original one for the NES, for the Game Boy Advance. They updated everything where it was all 16-bit graphics, 16-bit sprites and everything else, and they had pretty much tailored the gameplay akin to what Super Metroid was like. Well, another Metroid 2 remake, I mentioned that the developer who had worked on it worked over 3 years. Actually, I found out that guy worked over 10 years. He spent over 10 years putting it together. Initially, I believe it was just him messing around with replacing some of the sprites. But it turned out to be a much bigger project than what he initially thought that he was going to be able to do. So he went out of his way and he got a hold of some other community members, people that he got in contact through forums and all of that, who knew the project that he was working on, and he got a hold of a team of sprite artists, and they went ahead and they helped him work on it. Now, one of the things that we talked about when we talked about another Metroid 2 remake was, well, why doesn't Nintendo go out of their way to hire this guy? Why don't they go ahead and give this guy a job? Or why don't they give him a nod or something like that? Well, generally speaking, it's because, to take words from another YouTuber, it is kind of like opening Pandora's box. Remember, like I've mentioned in other videos, I worked at Nintendo before. And the thing is that at the time that I worked at Nintendo, Nintendo had already been in this business of handling video game consoles for the masses in North America and actually worldwide for over 13 years at the time. Because their release for the NES was like in 1985, and it was 1998 at the time that I was working there. Well, when you work at Nintendo, especially for somebody who answers phones over there, they have this really cool system where after they go ahead and they train you and they get you all set, basically if there's anything that comes up, any sort of response or any sort of question or any sort of issue that they've encountered before, or they've encountered before on enough times, they go ahead and they have it all scripted out in this huge question database that you can go ahead and you can look up. And then, one of the things that they teach you how to do is identify what type of issue is it, go ahead and look for it, and then you'll have the company script, what to say. And there was a section on there for when people say that they've got games that they want to go ahead and make for you, or people who say that they have ideas for games, or they have ideas for storylines for existing games or stuff like that. The general viewpoint is that you can't accept any of that stuff, because if you do, well, then you just open yourself up to a lot of legal mumbo jumbo and heartache. The thing about it is that you can't sit there, even though it sounds really good to sit there and say, hey, this guy has a good idea, and then you take it and then you run off with it. The problem is that then you go ahead and you open yourself up to be sued by that person. That's just how that is. Now, if they come up to you and they have a demo, a working tech demo, and they say, hey, look, this is something that I would like to talk to some of your people about, and then they get all the initial legal paperwork, non-disclosure agreements, and and everything else all put together. And if that person has their legal paperwork, like their copyright protection and everything else, or their trademark registered and all of that, then they can go ahead and actually talk to a designer or a game maker or somebody on equal footing. And it's not so much something like you're just randomly reaching into the box, hoping that you're not going to get stung by whatever you pull out. And that the thing about it is that if you consider the time, even more so now, they were one of the few video game companies. They were the video game company at the time, though, one of the few where people actually had a direct number to, and that they could actually talk to live people about things like whether or not it be, magazine subscriptions or whatever the hell it is. And the truth of the matter is that as a large publisher, you can't sit there and you can't take everybody's idea. It's just not realistic to do that. Likewise, you can't hire everybody who goes out of their way and shows that they have a knack for developing something. The truth of the matter, this is a guy who went ahead and created another Metroid 2 remake. His real life job is that he's a sound engineer. And to tell you the truth, if they went ahead and they actually tried to hire him to go ahead and act as a developer in-house, he probably makes more money in his day job as a sound engineer than one of those developers do, on a yearly basis in salary. So the truth of the matter is that it's, when you deal with those particular situations, it's not always so cut and dry that you go out of your way and you say, hey, this guy's got some good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick him up. I'm going to hire him. Well, what's his real job? Maybe this person went ahead and they put all this stuff out, but maybe there are things that you have to take into consideration. Maybe it's something that they did on their spare time and they were able to go ahead and do this, on their spare time, but it took them 10 years, I would hope any project that takes 10 years would end up being a good one. And credit to the creators of another Metroid 2 remake. It's a great game. It is a great game. Now, one thing that we had mentioned in our particular video is that the timing seemed a little bit suspect, that they decided to go ahead and wait until he actually provided a link for it to download, that he actually started distributing it before they actually told him to take it down. The truth of the matter is this: you can go out of your way and you can develop a property based on anything, whatever you desire. It doesn't matter if it's short stories, fan artwork, or even video games, interactive software. Where it becomes an issue when it comes to copyright is when you start distributing it out for other people. That's when it becomes an issue for copyright. Now there's a whole bunch of other rules and regulations surrounding it, like when things become public domain, how things are used for how the rules go for fair use and all of that. If you've paid attention to YouTube over the last few months, that's been a big deal of a lot of things going around. And the thing with Nintendo is that they're not being malicious when they do this. And I'm not stating this because I'm a fan. I'm trying to defend them. I understand that the position that they're in is that when it comes to copyright law, there isn't copyright police out there to go ahead and enforce that law. There isn't a group of people out there with the sole intent of upholding copyright law. No, unfortunately, if something comes under a copyright dispute or anything like that, it's up to you as the intellectual property holder, as the IP holder, as the copyright owner, to go out of their way and take care of that. And the problem with going out of your way and handling copyright dispute and copyright issues is that, unfortunately, you can't go out of your way and be selective and choosy about it. You either you go out of your way and you enforce everything down the line, or you choose not to enforce something and then it comes back to bite you in the ass when things do actually go to court, and your inaction actually sets a precedent for the judge to sit there and say, So obviously this must not have meant that much to you because you've let it go before. And that's just kind of the position that they're in. It sucks, especially for the people who want to go ahead and play fan games. But that's just how it is, you know. One of the other fan games that we had mentioned was Pokemon Uranium, and that one took around 3 years to produce, and it was produced using, actually, I believe, the RPG Maker engine. There was it's a fan-made game. Now the developer who went ahead and made Pokemon Uranium, we reported in the video that Nintendo went out of their way and they took it down. Actually, she took it down herself. She didn't want to open herself up to litigation. She saw what happened with another Metroid 2 remake, and she saw what happened to the scans that were uploaded to the Internet Archive. And she, out of fear of litigation, she went ahead and she took it down. Now, the one thing that she can probably do if she wanted to, and I'm not saying this is a simple task, and I know this is somebody who works for a developer who does software. What she could do is that she can take her work and she can tweak it a little bit, and she'll still be able to go out of her way and maybe market it. Steam allows you to sell games that you create using RPG Maker from anywhere from like 99 cents to $10. So if she were to go ahead and rework enough of it to go ahead and remove the remnants of what she could be sued for as far as what's attached to Pokemon, she can actually go out of her way and, you know, release a game, maybe make some money back to go ahead and cover her time and effort, and maybe it'll actually work out to her where, guess what, she actually has her own franchise to go out of her way and build all this stuff. Now, I can understand as a fan that you want to go out of your way, and when you see something that you really love, especially a piece of media or a game or anything like that, that you want to go ahead and be able to add to the lore. But for something that's creative like this, I would hate to see that a creative set of people who are able to put together a solid game decide that they not want to touch anything like that again, because they can't have it attached to a certain brand name, or they couldn't have it attached to a certain intellectual property. And the truth of the matter is that, you know, certain tools like RPG Maker and other things like that are there for independent developers who aren't able to go out of their way and spend, you know, the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on development tools and development kits. I just had to go ahead and frame that correctly before we actually got around to making another set of videos come this weekend, because it just kind of bugged me. I did a little bit more research and I saw a few more views on it, and the truth of the matter is that I'd rather be the person coming out and correcting my own crap than to have somebody else call me out on it. Especially when it's something like this. I don't want to go ahead and sound like I'm trying to suck up to Nintendo or trying to downplay anything that any of the individual developers went ahead and did, because what they did is no small feat at all. But the truth of the matter is that I understand that Nintendo, when it comes to handling their copyright laws, or their interest in copyright and also intellectual property, they can't go out of their way and be lax and have the luxury of cherry picking what they want to go ahead and stay or leave up, or what they want to take down. They've got to be able to address everything, because if they don't, nobody else is going to do it for them. And if it comes around to a time where something really does come into dispute, the fact that they haven't acted on things before, that works against them. And that's how legal precedence is. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this particular one. This video is running almost 15 minutes. It's actually a little bit longer than what I initially expected it to go. But, I just want to go ahead and make those corrections. This week has actually been really, really busy for video game news. There's a lot of things that we're going to cover this coming weekend, whether it be PlayStation Plus increasing in price, you know, PlayStation Now coming to the PC. There's a whole bunch of things. Toe Jam and Earl. There's going to be a new Toe Jam and Earl game being made in partner with Adult Swim. That's mind-blowing to me. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to have available to go ahead and talk about in the next video that I do with the rest of the middle-aged guys. But I really just want to go ahead and leave this video here. Leave my corrections, apologies to anybody who I might have put off for not doing my research. But you know, like I said before, I'd rather correct myself instead of having somebody else call me out on my bullshit. With that, like I say at the end of every video that I'm in, thank you for following me up until this point for the last 15 minutes or so. If you're so kind, hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave me a comment below. As you know, every comment you leave is the beginning of a new conversation. And as I say with every really good conversation, it really doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with me. If for a moment at all, anytime I make you stop and think about what I'm talking about, hey, I've accomplished much more than you can imagine. See you later.